Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Physical Digital Tiny Room. I am one of the co-hosts of Michael and Benjamin's podcast. I am the one who is called Michael, and I am joined by the man who has been called the James Gunn of Irish podcasting.
You fucker.
It's Benjamin. Benjamin, say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, go on.
Michael, I've just realised that I'm chewing gum, so I'm going to have to do an awkward swallow.
Okay.
Or the listeners are going to get an earful of, it's now stuck in my gut. Oh,
Yeah. This is
a disaster.
This is not Ben's first awkward swallow, ladies and gentlemen. Benjamin, hit the theme music.
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music, but I hope someone will mix them up for us. I don't wanna name any names. Rachel, I hope it's Rachel.
We don't need to leave a gap.
Yeah, how long it's going to take.
Ben, isn't it amazing that we have theme music again?
Yeah, unbelievable.
It was. What never ceases to amaze me is that people either accidentally or on purpose listen to the podcast. But that piece of sterling work was provided to us by a friend of the podcast, Stephen McNulty.
Completely unprompted. Thank you very much, Mr. McNulty.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
We have included a link to Mr. McNulty's Bandcamp profile down below. Profile? Is it a profile?
Bandcamp. I don't know what a Bandcamp is. His Bandcamp page. Look, give it a look. He seems like a real good egg.
He's got his music there. He's a real good egg. He sounded it unprompted. With no more of a request than to have his link put down below.
Yeah, sure, look.
Go give him a look, give him a listen.
Ben, remember a few weeks ago you were saying that you enjoyed the Teen Titans because they're so fun and colourful and enjoyable.
Yeah.
Do you want to eat that crow, or do you want to...
Well, I don't think I should eat that crow. I think DC should eat that bloody crow. Well, Michael, let's open the podcast with a very friendly fuck Batman.
Fuck Batman.
Fuck Batman. That turned out a lot more porny than I thought it would.
Yeah.
The bloody... So, Michael, this week is STCC.
It is. South Dublin County Council.
Yeah, South Dublin County Council out there cleaning the streets up for August.
Yeah.
Getting it all done. No, they're not. It's the San Diego Comic-Con, of course, the biggest event in nerddom.
Nerd Christmas.
In the Western Hemisphere, at least. No, wait, not Hemisphere. Western world.
Yeah.
There we go.
You're not the first person to ever say Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, I probably
I
shouldn't.
don't like it. It's not like it's...
I probably shouldn't say that, though.
Yeah,
It's the Western world. Let's leave it at that. But one of the things that was launched there was the new trailer for DC's streaming service.
Yeah.
And one of their headlining shows is going to be bloody Teen Titans. Or, because we can't have teens anymore because it can't be fun, like Titans.
Yeah, don't say teen.
It's not Teen Titans at all. It's Titans. And I'm going to say it that way every time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry. But very moody, Michael. It starts with a little goth girl coming and finding a vigilante in what looks to be Gotham City.
It might be Bloodhaven.
It could be Bloodhaven. And she finds a very moody, bloody Dick Grayson. And we start with an opening shot, which looks very much like something from the Joel Schumacher Batman's, where the slow motion trapeze act falling.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
It's very off tone.
Very reminiscent of Batman and Robin.
Yeah, but it's a complete turnaround for the franchise. Teen Titans Go is this great kind of fun superhero romp. They just did really well off that movie. I don't have figures, but the movie was...
Has that movie come out?
Yeah, it's out in the States at the minute. It's not getting a release here, I don't think.
Oh, that's no good.
Yeah, it's a real bad egg.
Damn you, the World Cup.
Damn you, the World Cup. And then, unfortunately... this thing just seems to be completely out of tone, and they're feeling a bit of a backlash from it. Because the Teen Titans, especially the animated series, both Go and the original, they have a big backing, and they're always kind of the lighter, funner side of things.
True.
And people aren't happy. They're like, okay. There are a number of videos popping up on YouTube called R.I.P. Teen Titans, which are just hardcore fans expressing their dismay.
But Robin says, fuck Batman.
Yeah. Where's Batman? Fuck Batman. It's just so silly. And then there's it's so 90s. Like, it's hardcore. It's very like, if Tom Hardy had popped up in a Venom suit, I would not have been shocked in that trailer. There were bones snapping, there was blood, there was a lot of heavy sound effects. There was a moody, screaming, possessed teenager.
Yeah.
Starfire does not look a lot better than she did in the still photo. I remember everyone was like, oh, she's going to look better in poster. She doesn't.
I mean,
looks a bit silly.
doing Starfire effects in post all the time would be very expensive.
It's going to be very expensive by the looks of it.
I'd say she will spend most of her time as a normal person, and only once per episode will she power up.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those, isn't it? It's going to be one of those. But, yeah, boo. Not a... It's a thumbs down from me, Michael.
Oh, Ben.
It's a thumbs down from me. On the upside,
Yes.
coming out of that, the bloody Young Justice cartoon series is coming back to the DC streaming service.
I still think of Young Justice as new, but it's probably close to a decade old.
Yeah, in and around that, yeah.
Is it?
Well, not a decade, I think 8 years.
Okay.
But damn close to a decade. But yeah, new season. Outsiders, focusing on the famous run with Batman running a small super team of people who left the Teen Titans.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
They're also bringing back Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, not Rebels.
Clone Wars.
Not Clone, there we go.
They're bringing back the previous series.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Because Disney's just milking that cow, baby.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. They're trying to repair their reputation, I'd say, after Solo.
I still haven't seen Solo, Ben.
I think neither have I. And nor do I think I'm missing anything. I feel kind of bad for the main guy in Solo, because all the press kind of went to Donald Glover.
Would that it were so easy?
Yeah, because it was, he was the known name in it, and he has a bit of charisma compared to, apparently, the wooden plank that they hired to play Han Solo.
Alden Algenreich.
I don't care.
He's not a wooden plank. He's very good in Hail Caesar.
Oh, he was in Hail Caesar.
He's the guy who says, he's the guy who can't say, would that it were so easy.
Yeah, would that it were so easy. Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I've seen films.
You.
I've
You're
seen films,
layering.
Ben. I've seen films.
Layers
I've seen
upon layers upon layers.
almost every film, just not Han Solo.
Almost every film. What else did you see at SDCC
Ben,
that you liked, Michael?
speaking of... Well, Ben, there were a lot of toys. And,
Go on,
I'm a big toy fan.
Go on.
The Marvel Legends, Ben, there were 30 new Marvel Legends announced. Jesus. Which is a pain on the old pocket. Although not as much of a pain on the pocket as my staph infection is a pain in my pocket. But that's not for the podcast.
No, it certainly is not, and now it is.
Yeah, go on. You do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna amputate Michael's leg. He's got a staph infection. It's game over. He doesn't know how he got it.
Yeah.
He was rolling around. We took him for a walk, and he started rolling around in puddles again.
Yeah, rolling around in fox piss. And next thing you know, you get an infected leg, and then you have to go to the doctor 5 times in a week. And now I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm on a lot of medication, so things don't make sense anymore. What was he saying about Marvel Legends?
It's a pain on the pocket, but not as much as the whole leg.
Marvel Legends seem to have really honed in on what sells, and they're doing a lot of 90s X-Men.
Nice.
A lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Nice.
And then a couple of weirdos thrown in here and there.
Oh, you have to have a weirdo
So,
now
Ben,
and then.
for example, they're doing a Hercules. And we'll have to get a Hercules for the Tiny Room.
Because we're such Hercules fans here at the Tiny Room.
We had a Hercules episode of the podcast. And then we'll do... Yeah, look, it was a good day for Marvel Legends. I think that, for me, that was the most exciting thing about San Diego Comic-Con this year. But also, there were films.
There were films announced.
Yes.
Films.
They weren't so much announced as we saw the first trailers.
Well, we saw the trailers for them.
The big two, the big heavy hitters, I suppose, were Aquaman and Shazam.
Yeah, oddly enough,
Go on.
kind of straying from the tone set by Scott Schneider, which I'm not entirely against. Did I not say Zack Schneider?
No, you said Scott Schneider, who's the guy you like
Sorry,
who writes
that's
comics.
the comic book guy. Zack Schneider, no relation.
I'm not sure they're no relation.
I mean, it's entirely possible. But
Third cousins.
Possibly. They should do a DNA test.
Yeah.
If Zack Schneider and Scott Schneider want to come over to Dublin, we will organise a tiny little DNA test to see if you guys are related. There are cheaper ways to do it, but they won't be as much fun, and there's no fox piss in a clinic.
Oh.
Aquaman... well, we'll start with Shazam, because it's quite tonally different. It's following the Rebirth run, where Billy Batson isn't actually a good kid. He's more of
he's a rebellious teen.
down-and-out foster kid who's been thrown around the system.
That's right.
But it seems to have a nice tone. It's kind of lighter. It's definitely pitched towards a younger audience, I think.
Yeah.
Quite funny in places.
Bang on casting, I think, with Zachary Levi.
Yeah, perfect captain. And I wasn't sold on him originally, but seeing him actually play the kind of naive guy where it's like, oh, I'm bulletproof.
Yeah.
You have bullet immunity, I think is the line.
Which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
I thought it was very funny. Because that's exactly, oh my god, you have bullet immunity. It's kind of fun. It's not going to be a great film. But I can't...
looking back to Big, it looks like the superhero version of Big.
Absolutely.
And Big shouldn't be a great film, but yet it is.
True. Very, very true. Do you know what would have been great? If they
Go
had
on.
made this movie in the 80s with Tom Hanks as Shazam.
I mean, the other thing is, Zachary Levi, I think it's Levi, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Could be
He's
Levy.
gotten pretty buff.
He
for
looks
this.
big.
But there's a lot of padding in that suit. But if there's any character who can get away with a big padded suit, it's Captain Marvel.
I think that's the whole thing, though. I think this is kind of a sly little wink to your classic
Yeah.
superhero in the big suit, and he is a ridiculous character even in the comics.
Yeah.
They tried to make him serious sometimes. They gave him a hood in the Rebirth run.
He has the hood in this by the looks of things.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's going to look very silly. The hood was kind of silly when I saw it in the. It made Shazam cool, but then you're reading through it and you're like, but Shazam isn't.
Shazam is the name of the wizard, remember? I don't know.
Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel.
I
but
don't
they
know
can't
what they're
say-
going to call him. Yeah.
they can't. I think he's the original Captain Marvel as well.
He
I
did.
think-
He predates the Marvel
yeah,
one.
I think Marvel went and snuck around that one. But I bet that Marvel has more lawyers than DC does. So
At this stage. What does he call himself in the comic? He can't call himself
He's
Shazam.
got- no, he
'Cause he
can't
would
call himself
transform.
Shazam. Yeah.
So what
But
does he
other
call
people
himself?
Call him Shazam.
What does he say? Hi, I'm...
Well, I think he must say Captain Marvel, I guess.
Does he? Maybe they can say Captain Marvel in the story, but they can't call the comic that.
I'm sure they probably can say it in story. I mean, there is an argument to be made that he's older than the like he was there first.
Yeah.
And they had the Marvel family. Like that was
They
the
call
whole
that
thing.
just Shazam family now, though.
Yeah, because they, Marvel kind of overtook them a little bit in that end of things. But optimistically, looks kind of fun.
Yeah.
I can never say his name right, but Dijon Hiyom. No, never mind.
Hyunsu,
It's the wonderful African actor who was in Guardians of the Galaxy for 5/8 of a second in the first.
Then he got killed by Drax.
Then he got killed by Drax.
I think the only thing Drax has ever done.
Yeah, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of useless, Drax.
Yeah, but shh, don't say you. Michael. But anyway, quite funny. Say my name. What? Seriously? Say it!
Yeah,
and
very
I
good.
thought that was very risque, and I liked that he laughed at the joke the same way I laughed at the joke. So that was nice.
I enjoyed when he's walking towards the camera towards the end and he says Shazam and the lightning hits him. That's a good transformation.
Yeah, it was a good move.
I like how instantaneous it is. I like that there's not a slow motion watching
yeah.
the lightning come down and strike him. And
Big built-up thing. But that's the thing in the comics. Like, he uses that as a weapon sometimes. He, catches people and then says Shazam and he blasts them.
famously, that's how he beat Superman at the end of Kingdom Come.
Is that how... Oh, it is how he beats Superman at the end of Kingdom
And
Come.
nuclear bombs.
That's an interesting one, but he is like a Superman level powerhouse. So it'll be fun to see.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to fit in the overall moody DC tone.
Well, they're trying to tone that down, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Well, they're rebooting full time. Like Matt Reeves, Batman. There's a solid chance it won't be Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Aquaman. Speaking of
Go on.
that came out.
Do the scream. I can't do it.
Woo!
That's the one, yeah.
Oh, look at that spike.
That's going to scare some
I'm
listeners.
so sorry. Yeah. I mean, they should. I am rarely a fan of action figures with phrases.
Go on.
But if ever you were going to do an action figure with phrases, just get Jason Momoa's various woo, yeah. I mean, it's just him playing Aquaman.
That's all it is.
But it worked for Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man.
It did. You're
and
right.
it seems to work in the trailer at least.
One of the
It
things
kind of works for.
One of the things I'm really enjoying about it is the Aquaman comics. They're gradually morphing Arthur Curry to look like Jason Momoa, but not dealing with the race thing.
Yeah, 'cause that's a messy one.
So he's now a white guy who looks like Jason Momoa. It's kind of weird.
Nicole Kidman
Yes.
is in this one, which is a big get. Like,
Yeah, it is.
Nicole Kidman is Hollywood royalty.
Yeah.
It's a big get.
Woman with
not
a plastic face.
Again, yeah, well, she's not a real person anymore, but that's okay. If Nicole Kidman retires someday, she can come and spend her time in the tiny room with all the other plastic figures.
Oh, very good.
So, yeah. Looks interesting. Like, tonally, a little bit lighter, a little bit more humor.
True.
Look, the CGI is much better than
And presumably not finished yet.
Batman versus much better than Batman versus Superman. Much cleaner, like not as much chaos going on. What I find really difficult about Zack Snyder in general when he tackles his kind of CGI projects is there's a lot going on. Like there's a lot of visual noise. It's actually not that easy to keep track of necessarily what's going on. And in this, it seems to be quite smooth. I really like the opening scene where he's being bullied and the
fish
shark comes to give him a hand.
Yeah, and all the fish are behind him. That's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty cool. His poster did get absolutely decimated online, though.
I didn't see it.
They photoshopped him in to the Finding Dory poster with
Oh,
all the
very
fish from Pixar behind
good.
him, and because it's a bit of a silly poster. But I think they're playing with that because I think if anyone has scope for a bit of piss taking, it's Aquaman, where it's like you talk to fish. He's like, I don't talk to fish. I communicate with fish. I don't talk to them, and it's kind of interesting. Funnily enough, they can't make their minds up on that in the comics.
If he talks to fish or not.
He's in Scott Schneider always has him talk to fish, so they have full conversations, and the fish call him things like my liege.
Oh, very good.
Which is quite funny.
Yeah.
But then other times it's kind of more of a telepathy that he can push fish in a certain
Make suggestions.
direction. Yeah, exactly.
That was in one of the cartoons, wasn't it? That fish don't have brains advanced enough to talk. That he can just kind of make suggestions.
It was
to
in
them.
the Justice League Bruce Timm version. They meet Aquaman and he's like, I don't talk to fish. And he gets really annoyed when people say that he does. Fish aren't my friends. And then they reference it in one of the comics. He comes up and he orders the fish special in a restaurant. And the waiter is like, Can you do that? Is that okay? And he's like, yes, it's fine. What do you think I eat? And it's like, oh, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I suppose. Like, if I had an army of cats, I would still eat
Cats?
That doesn't make sense. I
No,
don't
that
eat
doesn't make
cats.
any sense. That was terrible.
Medication. It was the medication.
You had an army of chickens. Maybe.
And then everyone just jumping out of airplanes for no reason.
Redheads. You gotta love them. Woo! Amazing.
It's just Jason Momoa the movie.
But I'm okay with that. I'm completely and utterly okay with that.
I would have called it Underwater Momoa.
Yeah.
That's, I think, would have been a better
Also,
name for it.
like, cool villain array. We're gonna get some Black Manta.
Yeah.
We're gonna get Orm.
And Black Manta's a bit of a cyclops.
Amber Heard's looking very well.
She looks quite attractive.
Very well.
A very attractive lady.
Looking very well. And it doesn't look very bad at all. The Atlantis in this one looks far better than the Atlantis that we saw for a split second in Justice League.
I don't like underwater things. I don't know why.
Can't blame you.
I don't know why. I never liked Aquaman. I don't like Namor. I don't like the song The Year 3000 by Busted.
I mean, there's so much underwater talk there. It's just silly.
I just don't like underwater things. They don't speak to me. So maybe this will be good. Maybe it won't.
Do you know that's actually not fact, that song? I always thought that it was fact, but it isn't. They didn't actually go to the year 3000.
Well, they were notorious liars.
They were bad
Benjamin,
eggs.
speaking of notorious liars, no, we're all right. This is a pretty good lead-in. Speaking of notorious liars, Samuel L. Jackson plays a character called Mr. Glass who lies a lot.
Who lies?
Oh, what a segue.
that was an exquisite segue, as we have become known for. Bloody M. Night. Can you say it for me?
Shyamalan.
He's back. He's back, and he has a connected universe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that was his vision originally. I think the studio wants a little dark universe, a little Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think we're pulling those threads together now because M. Night's gotten a little offer of, you can make the film you want, if you make them together.
Yeah, look, that's how connected universes should happen.
Yeah, I know.
You make one or two popular films and then link them together.
It's cool. Like that was the big twist at the end of Split.
Yeah.
Was Bruce Willis chilling out in a cafe? It looks like a really interesting, intense way of bringing them together, though.
Yeah,
very comic booky. You know,
they're all in a kind of support group.
Yeah, and of course, Mr. Glass is like, I think this is a team up, and it's pretty cool. Like it's going to be interesting. James McAvoy,
yes,
bloody ripped,
having a great time.
The bloody size of him.
Yeah.
He plays that very well. I rewatched a bit of Split in preparation for this. He plays it very well. Like he runs through those characters, and they are different people when he goes through them.
What somewhat surprised me about the trailer was I wasn't expecting Anya Taylor-Joy to have a big role.
Yeah, she seems to be
She was kind of just the victim in the first one.
Yeah, now she's back, and she looks to be helping.
Yeah,
the Beast.
Is she going to have powers?
I mean, we might give her one. Why not? We seem to be doing that now.
It wouldn't be the first time you tried to give a girl one, Ben.
Stop that, Michael.
James Gunn of Irish Podcasting.
Would you stop that, Michael?
I will see Glass, Ben.
I will also see Glass. I thought that Samuel L. Jackson died at the end of Unbreakable.
So did I.
For some reason in my brain,
can't remember it.
I think he did. I think Bruce Willis either broke every bone in his body, or gave him a little scene to. But I guess maybe we've retconned that, and maybe quite possibly Mr. Glass has made people think he was dead for a very long time.
Yeah, who knows? We'll see.
He's that kind of guy.
It'll be good. I think it'll be good. Bruce Willis looks old. Bruce Willis looks a lot like my dad.
Does he?
Yeah, my dad looks like... Well, look, either way, it means that's probably what I'm going to look like when I'm old. So
Is your
I kind
dad
of like
Bruce Willis?
No, my dad is not Bruce Willis.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Have you checked?
I know his whereabouts in Christmas 1988. I know that he wasn't in Nakatomi Plaza.
But have you ever seen Bruce Willis and your dad in the same room?
No.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. So join us next week, ladies and gentlemen, when we have Bruce Willis on the podcast
For a DNA test.
Yeah, for a
With,
DNA test with Nicole Kidman and
whoever else we said earlier.
Whoever else we said the Schneiders.
The two Schneiders.
The Schneiders, Nicole Kidman, Bruce Willis. We're going to need to get a bigger, tiny room.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm going to go see Glass.
Yeah,
see it
me
together?
too.
We go see it together? If I'm in the country?
If we're in the country, it'll probably be in Italy.
I possibly
You know what you're
will
like.
be. Yeah.
Ben, what did you think of Disney's slate of announcements? Very good. Ben's doing a sound effect now of a kind of tumbleweed. Surely we'll have won the video as well if you're watching this on YouTube.
Anyway, yeah, there was no announcement from Disney.
There was one.
STC.
Well, there was one extra special announcement.
There was an extra special announcement, or rather, an extra disappointing announcement. Mr. James Gunn is under fire. Mr. James Gunn is under a lot of fire, intense fire. Is what James Gunn is getting. He made a couple of tweets about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it was more than a couple of tweets.
Okay, so he made quite a few tweets a couple of years ago, and an alt-right activist, writer, producer called Mike Chernovic dug all these up.
Yeah, mudraker, I think is the word you're looking for.
Could you define that for the listeners there?
A mudraker, Ben, is someone who goes through your past and finds things that you said in the past and uses them against you in the present.
Yeah, so he's a big alt-right bad egg. And it's a bit rich for someone who has a pretty vile Twitter feed to go through other people's Twitter feeds and give out about them. He frequently. But look, that's the internet. That's how it works. Anyway, got in trouble for a couple of tweets. But admittedly, we're very edgy. But kind of silly. Michael and I do not support, any kind of abuse that takes place in a home, especially against children. We're not for that here at the podcast. But
that's what you said before the podcast. Look, there's no documentary. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
But anyway, some of the tweets were a little bit silly. I have some of them here.
Go on.
Now, the right in America, the conservative right in America, are outraged at this, and many think that Disney's wholesome image can't be tarnished, and that's why he's been let go. But some of the tweets, for example, the hotel shower is the weakest ever. Felt like the 3-year-old was peeing on my head.
Very good.
Eagle snatches kid is what I call it when I get lucky.
Oh, very, very interesting.
Yeah, honesty's the best policy. Tell your 3-year-old you're laughing, thinking of me fucking 3PO. He'll appreciate it when older. Okay. I remember my first...
You're just going to read them all out, are you?
No, it's just to give you a kind of a
taster.
Yeah, so about to vomit as I'm stuffed with etouffee and eggplant. I'm Louis Andersoning my ass out. Just the fat, not the little boys.
Who's Louis Anderson?
I don't know, but I'm assuming he was possibly a paedophile at some point. A fat paedophile by the style of that joke.
Yeah.
So these were some of the things. People are outraged. One of the big reactions is that the part of the internet is now calling him a paedophile. People are now branding James Gunn as a paedophile. And
using him as evidence that Hollywood is controlled by a kind of cabal of paedophile elites.
Yeah, which is a big jump.
Well, look, we don't know.
Well, we don't know, but also I wouldn't have said that any of those jokes would make me think that James Gunn was a paedophile.
No, certainly not.
And it's interesting that part of what's come out from this is, well, he was dropped straight away.
Instantly.
This all happened within a couple of hours, and he was fired before anybody knew where he was. And
very, very carefully timed by that mudraker guy to coincide with San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he did. He chose his time well.
Yeah, he chose his timing well, just to kind of get rid of that.
He reminds me of the government agents in V for Vendetta.
Yeah, who kind of have everything measured out.
Yeah,
ready.
Like real bad blokes.
I mean, like I said, it's a bit rich for a man like him to go around slinging mud. He also turned his sights on Michael Ian Black and Patton Oswalt after that.
Oh, really?
2 comedians. He's having a go at them currently. It's not going as well. But anyway, he was dropped. The right is in uproar. They're all screenshotting these tweets. James Gunn came out and defended himself, naturally, apologising. But he did actually apologise for this 6 years ago.
That's the thing.
He's been caught out for this before.
I always thought it was a little bit odd that they cast James Gunn, because I've been a James Gunn fan for a couple of years. I think one of the problems he has is his paedophile jokes aren't that funny.
They're not funny jokes.
There are better paedophile jokes. Frankie Boyle does very funny paedophile jokes.
Yep.
If you want someone who's really edgy and funny about that type of thing,
Frankie Boyle in.
There are other comedians who are edgy and funny about that kind of thing. I never thought that was that funny. But even just his trauma work and his own early horror things, he was always a weird get for Disney.
Yeah, but they would have known this when they hired him. Like,
That's
they would
what I
have
was
done
thinking.
the background checks.
Yeah.
He's already apologised. And now he has to be let go. I guess it's interesting because, I mean, people like the X-Men director, Bryan Singer,
Yeah.
like, they don't, like, he still works.
Yeah.
And
Harvey Weinstein,
Harvey Weinstein was
who
working-
legitimately
like,
assaulted people.
who legitimately assaulted people. Not a joke. Like, it was a very snap decision. Dave Bautista has come out and said that he's not okay with
Yeah,
this.
Sean Gunn too, and Michael Rooker.
Sean Good, Michael Rooker, they've all come out and said, you know, this, I don't know what's happening here, but it's not okay. Nothing from Chris Pratt yet, but I'd imagine you might hear something. Although maybe Chris Pratt doesn't want to mess with the gravy train he's currently on. I don't know.
Possibly. Chris Pratt's also quite conservative and
He's
Christian.
quite a conservative guy, but he knew James Gunn quite well. But also, if you've seen Chris Pratt's comedy work, same thing. If you've ever seen the outtakes from Parks and Recreation,
I know.
he's not that conservative.
No, like comedians, there's a certain point where comedians need to be taken. Things they say are jokes.
Yeah.
You can't just. I mean, round up everyone who's ever joked about paedophiles
Well,
and
we're done next, so
brand them a paedophile. Well, I don't think we've ever joked about paedophiles online, but I've definitely made a paedophile joke in my free time.
I've made several. I've made several.
It's quite scary, I find, that...
We're rounding up people based on what they say.
well, we're not. This is the other thing. I do not care for American politics.
No, not at all.
Not... you'll notice I was very careful in my choice of words there.
You were.
I don't care about American politics. I also don't care for American politics. I find both sides a bit distasteful and boring. And I think our kind of almost worldwide obsession with American identity politics is a bit odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's terrifying that artists are losing their jobs over jokes they made 10 years ago.
It's just weird it's weird that guys who are legitimately alt-right, like self-identify as alt-right, are allowed to make these accusations and be taken seriously.
Well, of course they should be allowed to make accusations. That's
Yeah,
free speech, isn't
fair
it?
enough. But it's interesting that, you know, he's already apologised. What I find most difficult is the backlash where people are now associating him as a paedophile. People are like, James Gunn is a paedophile.
Well, I don't think there's anyone seriously who believes that.
No one with any ounce of intelligence, but the internet's not really a place for intelligent people all the time, is it?
Ben!
Well, they let us have a podcast.
Our listeners are listening to this on the internet.
Yeah, but okay, our listeners, first of all, are wonderful people. They send us music sometimes. They give us an old comment. Yeah, but what I mean is, Twitter is just a bloody soapbox that people can scream their crap out from. Like,
Well, Ben, your long-running beef with Twitter is not.
I just don't like
something.
the discourse. I just think it's people slinging shit at each other. Like, this is a good example of just a guy who clearly gets his jollies going around ruining people's careers based on, like, there's no great agenda to removing James Gunn.
Well, there is. James Gunn had been pretty anti-Trump in his tweets for the last year.
Well, then, like,
That's the agenda. James Gunn entered the political arena.
oh, he shouldn't have done that then.
Well, shouldn't he?
He should be allowed to.
Exactly. This is the thing.
Yeah.
This is
It's
what.
tricky.
This is where it gets into American politics. Then is celebrities tend to be political entities these days. That's what happens when the president is a celebrity.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a celebrity, isn't he? That's the whole thing. I think people voted for him more because they knew his name.
Benjamin,
Yeah.
I don't think this will be the end of it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see if he gets up. Well, people are calling for him to be rehired. I don't think Disney can rehire him.
You don't think so?
I would be surprised if Disney goes back. Remember, Disney's big.
Yeah.
And Disney can make that decision and get another director in. There is already a call for Taika Waititi to replace him.
Which you can now pronounce.
Yeah, which I can now pronounce. I spent 6 hours last night in a mirror
Well done.
in preparation for this story. And there's already a call for him to replace him. I don't think Taika Waititi will take that, given the close working relationship that they've had, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think Taika Waititi has made some close to the bone jokes in his time as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So are we just going to take all the comedic time, like the Russo brothers did Arrested Development for a bunch of years, which is just a big satire of the alt, or not the alt-right, but the
standard
conservatives, rich people. Like, are we going to remove them? Probably not, given how much money they've made them.
Yeah.
But I mean,
sure, look.
Yeah, it sets a bad precedent, Michael. I think that's an interesting observation. It sets a really bad precedent for people.
It's very 1984, isn't it? It's very Stephen Fry's character in the movie version of V for Vendetta.
Rounding people up for stuff they said at a time. Like, he's completely changed now. He's very Christian,
Is he?
James Gunn is a...
Is he a Christian?
A Christian.
I didn't think he was.
He prays quite a bit.
Does he?
We've talked about that in the podcast before, Michael.
I don't remember that. Ben, I don't listen to this podcast.
When Chris Pratt was under fire for saying hopes and prayers.
Did James Gunn defend him there?
Kevin Smith.
Okay.
He defended him there and said that he quite often prays.
No side of Chris Pratt defending James Gunn then?
No.
What a bad bloke. Anyway, Ben, let's move on to something a bit lighter. Cloak and Dagger.
C&D.
C&D, Cocks and Dicks.
Podcast. Cloaks and Dicks.
Cocks and Dicks.
Cocks and Dicks.
Cloak and Dagger, Ben. Still very good. Have you watched it yet?
No.
Very good, Ben. Now, categorically my favourite Marvel TV show.
Wow.
Yeah, better than Daredevil Season 1.
That's high praise.
Better than... is it better than Jessica Jones Season 1? It's about as good as Jessica Jones Season 1, Ben. That is high praise from me. It has been renewed for Season 2, which is great. It has also had a couple of little crossover comment links connecting it to Luke Cage. Ooh. So even though it's on ABC, the same network as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter and The Inhumans.
Notably wonderful TV show, The Inhumans.
It is more closely connected with the Netflix universe side of things. But, Ben, they've only gone and done a thing. And there's going to be some major spoilers here.
What they done? Do
you want to hear some major spoilers? They've gone and done a thing.
Okay, go on.
So in the latest episode, first of all, Cloak finally becomes Cloak. He puts on a cloak and does his cloak stuff. But Ben, the lead detective, who's a lady, and yet a detective, Ben, it's the modern world.
What? 2018.
She catches the baddie, but then in revenge for the baddie being caught, her boyfriend is killed and stuffed in a fridge.
They fridged a boyfriend. Oh my god.
Boyfriends in fridges.
Fridging.
Yeah.
It's back. That's amazing.
Ben, give us a 30-second summary of why that's a thing.
So, as we've talked about in the podcast before, Gail Simone, noted writer, feminist, etc., had a website in the 90s where she charted the amount of women that had either been abused, murdered, or mutilated in order to provide motivation for a male character. This famously referenced a particular episode of Green Lantern where he was in space, and to get him to come back to Earth, one of his villains on Earth murdered his girlfriend and stuffed her in a fridge.
Yeah.
He found this out by reading a note left by that villain that said, "Left something for you in the fridge, sweetie." He opens it. There she is. She existed for maybe 3 issues. She was introduced and then murdered within the 3-issue arc, just to provide a little motivation for Kyle Rayner to go off and have an elf fit. So it was called Women in Fridges. It's still up to date. It's very 90s. Go check it out. But the trope has been making a comeback in various forms. It's evolved, or mutated might be a better way of saying it, into other things. For example, burying gays. So there's an example of taking any minority and burying them.
What does 30 seconds mean to you? That was 4.5 minutes, Ben.
It's not 4.5.
You zoned out. You zoned out. You went full Ben. Anyway, look. The thing was...
Card counting.
The thing was...
Ben Hoffman.
Father lets me drive on Tuesdays. Very good driver. The thing is, it's a very close reenactment of that famous woman in the fridge moment.
Nice.
He has been in, I think, 3 episodes. And then he finally got a bit more to do in the latest episode. And actually,
Classic.
I was watching this with my lady friend, Ben, and as we were watching it, and that guy started getting a bit more to do, she said, "Oh, dead or baddie?"
Dead or baddie?
Like, when a new character is introduced and he seems really nice, he's either going to be dead or a baddie.
Can we please do a roundup of various new films that are coming out, and can we play Dead or Baddie?
Dead or Baddie.
With your good lady friend on the podcast. We should definitely do that.
We'll just trap her in the tiny room.
Famous pop culture moments. We'll let her go through them. We'll show her little clips, and she can decide Dead or Baddie, and we can just tell her if she's right or wrong. I'm definitely doing that. It's definitely going to be a podcast episode at some point. But yeah, that's good. Frigid Men.
They
2018.
They fridged a boyfriend. But I mean, there's no way it wasn't a.
Oh, it was an absolute nod to it, I think.
An absolute, not even a nod, a flat out. Look
at the thing we did.
Look what we did. You know the thing. We did the thing, but the opposite. Very good, very good show though. More twists and turns, more characters who look a bit stock charactery turning out to have hidden depths.
I'm gonna have to start watching it, Michael. You've been recommending it very well for a while.
Look. Sometimes when I'm watching something and enjoying it, I can't honestly tell if it's good or not. Yeah. But I think this is very good.
This time.
It has themes, it has acting, it has good special effects. They have relatively low-level powers. Okay. But sometimes characters have such low-level powers that they're basically not powers.
Yeah, okay.
Like, they're just a little ability, but that doesn't mean you should go fight crime. Like, cloaks or daggers. I was thinking, all that is a woman with knives. I know a woman who carries a knife, and she shouldn't be fighting crime.
Anyone?
No, we can't say that on the podcast. She'll be arrested. Yeah, she'll be arrested. But her light dagger, she takes one and angrily cuts a steel girder, and it goes through it like a knife through hot butter. It's very good. It's a good show. Look,
hot knife through butter.
What did I say?
You said a knife through hot butter.
Same effect.
Same effect, but still.
Makes no difference.
That's a puddle, so it's not really. The hot butter is melted.
Warm butter, then.
Oh, would you fuck off?
Room temperature butter, but room temperature in Ireland in the summer, not the winter. Ben, okay. What are we talking about this week?
Well, it's interesting that you talked about, the undertones of 1984 in our little James Gunn chat, because today... Well, over the last couple of podcasts, Michael, we've talked about Mr. Alan Moore. Alan Moore is a famous kind of... Alan Moore is a famous comic book writer, probably one of the most famous comic book writers to ever come out of the medium.
The world.
We talked about a lot of his comics recently, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
And we kind of always make fun of him.
Tom Strong.
Yeah, for being like the oddest... man in comics.
He's a character.
He's a character.
Especially now that Steve Ditko is dead.
Yeah. He's just stepped up.
Yeah.
He's a big Norfolk man, and he talks like this, and he has many strong opinions on things that he feels are relevant to the cosmos.
And he's a wizard.
And he has a very unusual relationship with his characters. So to give you a rough idea, I'm going to read off some of his greatest hits for you.
Okay.
Chances are, if you listen to this podcast, first of all, you know us, but second of all,
although, like, the guy who made the music for us never...
The guy who made the music for us doesn't know us. So for all the other listeners, including Mr. McNulty,
yes,
noted composer, Mr. McNulty, some of his classic ones, V for Vendetta, which you mentioned.
That's quite good.
Marvel Man or Miracle Man, he took over that for Marvel at one point.
Yeah.
Kind of turned it into a big postmodern thing. Swamp Thing, very famous for creating Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm. Did he create Swamp Thing?
He created Swamp Thing.
Yeah. Is this going to lead to a Ben's retraction?
No, he was the creator.
He definitely created Swamp Thing.
Wait, do you know more than I do?
No.
If you can stop me retracting, but I'm almost certain he created Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Watchmen, which is his most famous work, I think.
His Piece de Resistance.
Batman the Killing Joke, which is a really famous Batman story. He has since apologized and wish he had nothing to do with it.
Bit rapey.
Very rapey, which is a theme with Mr. Alan Moore. From Hell, which is kind of his famous Jack the Ripper biopic.
Yeah. Can't be a biopic, Ben. It's a book.
His famous Jack the Ripper catalogue. Cataloguing of Jack the Ripper. Promethea, which was a really unusual kind of jump into literary cross-referencing and meta language, and really interesting. Tom Strong, who we've mentioned. Top 10, which was his kind of parody of...
Top 10 is great.
Yeah, it's his parody of all that. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, of course. Mm-hmm. He also had a hand in Astro City for a long time.
With Kurt Busiek.
Yes, exactly. And more recently, he's kind of... he's getting messy. His rapey themes are coming back. One that we've reviewed on the pod before is Neonomicon, sorry, where there's Big Fish Man.
Yeah.
And a lot of raping. Very uncomfortable comic. Just a horrible read. Providence was the other one then, and his big magnum opus, or what he feels is his magnum opus, was Jerusalem, but it wasn't that successful.
What about Lost Girls?
Lost Girls.
The one about the one about the sexual adventures of the literary characters.
Oh man, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's like Alison.
Oh no, there it is, 1991.
Yeah,
Lost Girls.
That's one of his most controversial works.
Well, what happens there?
The girls. I think it's the girl from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay.
And Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Right.
And who's the other one who has a similar adventure to Alice in Wonderland?
I couldn't tell you.
You know, people always put them together. Alice in Wonderland and the other one. The other one that's kind of like it. The Wizard of Oz.
Dorothy.
Yeah, so those characters all come back from their adventures, and then he wrote a comic about their sexual exploits.
Why?
Because he's a bit weird. He's a weird bloke.
He is a very weird man.
It's an erotic thing about young women.
He also had he wrote John Constantine for a while. He is the creator of John Constantine.
Oh.
Is he?
I don't know.
Is he? Okay, hang on. We'll look that up in the meantime. But he has said...
I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Of John Constantine, he has said, to give you an idea of kind of the weird egg that Mr. Alan Moore is, in an interview he said that I was sitting in a bar and John Constantine walked up to me while I was drinking.
Yes.
And told me, the thing about magic is, it's all bollocks. So he believes that he has literally met...
Oh yeah, John Constantine was created by Alan Moore. Very good.
Check Swamp Thing there as well, just so we can avoid me and my retractions.
Keep talking though.
John Constantine has become one of the most used figures in the supernatural DC verse. And yeah, so he believes that he honestly met that character in a bar. So that's the kind of man that Alan Moore is. And I recently watched a series of very strange documentaries. Well, not documentaries, it's a series of interviews done by a French channel called Art. And they kind of had conversations with Alan Moore and his worldview. Alan Moore is usually... he kind of touches on all different topics. He didn't
create Swamp Thing.
Did he not create Swamp Thing? Damn it. What did he create? Who created
Len Wein.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies. Instant retraction. Not Ben's retractions, because it happened this week. Michael, fact checker.
Yeah, that's my job.
Check in facts. So, yeah. The reason that I wanted to talk about him today was because this series of interviews asks him about his modern kind of how he feels about the world today. He gives a very interesting series of interviews. One on information technology, one on Brexit, but oddly enough, what I found interesting about it is he is kind of noted like as very intellectual, and he does kind of see things in the near future very well.
Right.
When he was adapting his science fiction stuff, he often, especially for 2000 AD, he wrote one called Halo Jones, I think, the Ballad of Halo Jones. And in that, he had two planets that pushed against each other and affected time and did all this kind of thing. But he was on the podcast with Brian Cox, and I think it's Monkeys in a Barrel, or Infinite Monkeys. Infinite Monkeys is what it's called. It's a BBC podcast about science, where they have a normal guest come on and they chat about that.
A normal guest?
No, like a normal non-science person.
Oh, a non-science person, okay.
Come on, and they kind of debate sciencey stuff. And when he expressed this theory, because he wrote this comic in the early 80s.
Go on.
Actually, the scientists were quite impressed. They're like, yeah, we found that out later, that's how that works. So he's good at a future prediction.
Right.
Because he kind of sees the world in a very dark kind of way, but he kind of pushes it that way. But what I was interested in more is the range of things that he has kind of gone through.
Okay.
Because he does his superhero parodies, like Watchmen.
Yeah.
And Top 10.
And Tom Strong.
Although
that wasn't a parody so much.
More
a kind
Victorian
of an homage.
Yeah. And then he jumps through time. He does his League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He cites his influences big time, like Necronomicon, H.P. Lovecraft, that kind of thing. And he just has such a broad range on what he does. He has also written extensively for DC, Marvel, etc. on various runs that their characters...
just of comic book superheroes.
Normal comic book superheroes. And I think I'm just impressed by the scope of what he does. I don't always like what he does. I found Neonomicon very difficult to read. Like, I was just uncomfortable with that.
I thought it was very good up until it got a bit rapey.
Super rapey. It wasn't a bit rapey. It was like... But I think the disturbing thing about Neonomicon is how she comes to enjoy the rape. That's the part that I...
Here's the thing, though. That is always what H.P. Lovecraft meant.
Yeah, I know.
With his dark rituals and his
but
evil acts.
I don't know if you need to draw that in a comic.
Sure, look. That's art.
That's art. But I mean, he's noted for... He often has very strange sex scenes in odd places. Like the
back of a Volkswagen?
Like the Mina Harker and Alan Quatermain sex scene from...
Yes, quite creepy because he's very old.
He's very old. She's very old as well.
Yeah, but she's a young lady.
And it's just, it gets strange. It gets a bit odd here and there. But I was kind of more interested in the range of work that he put together.
Go on.
And especially with regards to his kind of anti-government, anti-big business kind of stuff. You see it in Watchmen, where like the villain of the plot is
big business,
and but he's an interesting. It was after seeing that series of interviews. It's just interesting. He seems quite relevant now to the way the world is going. And
is he an anarchist?
He was an anarchist. I don't know if he's still an anarchist. But I would say that his Brexit talk, I'll put it in a link down below, his Brexit talk is actually quite succinct, which is rare for Alan Moore. It's quite succinct and quite direct, and you can kind of see the way he sees the world, and he has, like, you understand how it shaped him. So it was just interesting to see that. He grew up in the 60s.
Yes.
In a socialist family.
Right.
And he kind of, that influences a lot of his work. You'll often see the working classes as down and out, how they suffer. That really shaped how he was. And then he got into the occult. As he got older, he became a wizard. And he fully believes he's a wizard, by the way. That's not... Does
he though, Ben? Well, how much of Alan Moore is real?
Well, I actually think a lot of Alan Moore is real. I think that's the funny thing about Alan Moore, because I think we say this a lot when we come across our Grant Morrisons.
How much of Grant Morrison is real?
Grant Morrison's not real. Grant Morrison saw Pinhead once when he was a kid, and he was like, that's kind of cool. I'm going to wear a big black coat and shave my head. But I'd say Grant Morrison's just grand. Like,
you don't think Grant Morrison really thinks he is a wizard?
No.
You don't think Grant Morrison thinks that his comic books are really changing the psyche of humanity?
I fucking hope not.
Who knows, Ben?
Imagine how insufferable he'd be if it was.
Well, I don't spend a lot of time with him, so it wouldn't bother me.
I have to see him every Tuesday at Squash. It's
Squash for Grant Morrison.
Yeah, that's the name of the episode, by the way. But yeah, I just, for me, I think Alan Moore is like the genuine article. I think he genuinely is that bloody weird.
He is a real wizard.
And once you read through his stuff, you kind of pick that up. Like, it's very out there. I think one of the more interesting things is where he starts to bleed those literary genres together and take different things. Promethea is a great example of that.
I've never read Promethea, Ben.
Promethea is very good.
Give us a rundown.
Promethea is very good. It's about kind of a forgotten superhero called Promethea.
Yeah.
And she's very much a Wonder Woman kind of parody. And she keeps switching to either side of the mic, and Michael is making fun of me for it. It's making it very hard to focus.
Ben can't sit still. He has a problem. Jesus. We have a new microphone set up, and his head's bobbing around all over the place.
I'm trying to keep my mouth in the same place. I'm trying. I was going to make it "that's what she said" joke, but
Ben,
we'll move along.
All right, James Gunn, calm down.
Anyways, oh, boo.
What are you saying? Promethea, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she's a Wonder Woman parody. And she's very much literary.
Parody or pastiche? Or homage?
It could be half homage, half not. She's not Amazonian, she's Egyptian.
Okay.
Or Egyptian Greek. It gets very messy. But her adventures take place exclusively in literary worlds.
Oh.
And the threat in her world is the kind of thing that tears away literature. It erases literature. It's a group. It's a cabal or a group that is erasing human knowledge.
Yeah.
As they go through time.
Right.
And she is kind of brought back to be that. And the host that's chosen is someone who has a real connection with literature, someone who really loves art and literature and that kind of thing.
Sure.
And that becomes the host. And the more connected or the more in love or creative the person is, the stronger the avatar becomes when she manifests. So it's a really interesting comic. J.H. Williams III draws it. He does really beautiful panel layouts and has a really nice meandering way of doing it. It's really cool. Check it out.
Ben, when I was a teen, I was so inspired by Alan Moore's blending of literary creations together that I wrote a comic book that someone in the future might have written, blending together literary and TV and movie characters from our time period. And it was a team of Doc Brown from Back to the Future, a Terminator,
nice,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Duncan MacLeod from Highlander, and John Rambo.
Yes,
and they were all gathered up and tasked by an old Indiana Jones.
Oh yes,
with defending Earth from an invasion by the aliens from the movie Aliens.
That's amazing.
I know. Someone write that. I already wrote it. Someone draw it.
That's amazing. Oh man, I know what I'm doing with my Sunday.
Because they were across. You see, because Alan Moore's characters don't all come from one time period. Like they
he stretched them along.
Like they come from the Victorian era, but the Victorian era is a long time.
Well, they've just launched Volume 3 of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. There's a new series after coming out. Yeah, so I mean, he keeps doing it and he jumps backwards and forwards. They were the following to the Black Dossier and the current run. They were never as popular as his initial.
Well, they also got really weird, and
because he went back through all the Penny Dreadfuls and stuff like that and found obscure characters, and it doesn't work as well when you just use obscure characters.
Well, also he time jumped into the present, and his big bad was, spoilers for something that's pretty old, Harry Potter.
Was it?
Yeah, Harry Potter was the Antichrist, as it turned out, and. They battle. Have you not read the end of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
No,
it's bloody great. It gets really weird.
That's amazing.
It gets really, really weird.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that sounds very like the Unwritten.
Never heard of
Carey vehicle from Vertigo. Again, literary worlds. I think probably heavily inspired by a lot of what Alan Moore did. Anyway. That was the end of it was just interesting. It was interesting to hear his thoughts on Brexit, and it was interesting to...
What are his thoughts on Brexit? Just, this could be infuriating, I just realised, for people listening.
Well, so I'm going to do my Alan Moore impression again.
Okay, right.
I'm going to give it to somebody who goes... the way he opens it is with a very interesting...
Stop bobbing your head around!
Is with a very interesting analogy. He says, a protest vote is very much like going to a Holiday Inn. And when you get to the Holiday Inn, you don't like your room. So you shit the bed in protest. And then you slowly realise that you have to live in that shit for the rest of the night. That's how he opens it. But it's a bit silly. But then...
So he's anti-Brexit?
He is very much anti-Brexit.
He's pro-Europe.
He's anti-Brexit. But he talked about how it was very divisive. He talked about... He considers himself to be... if not middle class himself, then very much in the middle class world of things.
Yeah.
And he said a lot of his friends actually voted for Brexit as a protest vote. They kind of wanted to shake England up a little bit and kind of do that. And he said it went horribly wrong for them. He said he had huge arguments with a lot of his friends when he found out they voted for Brexit. But it was interesting to see it from a middle class perspective in his mind, because he's very in touch with working class. He grew up that way, and he talked about that. And he's very quick not to blame the working class for what happened with Brexit. He said it was a smear campaign of misinformation and stuff like that. And it was kind of interesting just to... A man who is normally very... I can't stomach him a lot in interviews. It just seems very waffly to me. And the John Constantine anecdote that I gave you earlier on is something that I really don't like.
Ben, I just heard Podcast Wanker's ears pricking up.
What did I say?
I can hear his tweet of Ben accusing Alan Moore of being waffly.
Yeah, well... Hi, Podcast Wanker. There you go. There's your ammo for the week. Anyway, any interesting comics this week, Michael? Before we wrap up?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, yes. I was out in... interesting, right? Generally, I don't put... I like going to Dublin City Comics. They're my local comic book shop. But I don't generally put things on my... pull list, my weekly list, until there have been 3 or 4 good issues in a row.
Okay.
And this week I almost missed out on The Incredible Hulk, the Immortal Hulk, issue 3.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realise quite how popular it was getting, so I didn't ask them to put it aside for me, because they always put something aside if I ask. So they had sold out. of Immortal Hulk. And then, Ben, when I was out in the clinic getting my leg infection looked at,
Lovely.
I happened to be close to the Big Bang out in Dundrum.
Okay.
And I went in there, and I don't go there very often because it's quite far from my house.
Yes, it is.
But it's a lovely shop, Ben. And then you said there was some news about it.
There was. STCC does a roundup of the best independent comic book shops. And there's an award. It's an Eisner Award. Mm-hmm. And they've only gone and been nominated in the top 5 best independent comic shops on the planet.
What an achievement.
What an achievement for a small Irish independent store. So, big congratulations to our... Well, to Big Bang Comics. There's no point in saying our friends over at Big Bang Comics.
No.
Hopefully after this plug.
You know what, Ben? Actually, Big Bang Comics was, a long time ago, my comic book shop of choice when they used to be called The Third Place, and they were in Temple Bar in Dublin.
I remember The Third Place.
And that's the same guys.
It's the same guys.
They moved there and changed their names. So, yeah, I'm almost cheating on them in a way.
Yeah, great.
But yeah, when they moved there first, they moved into a pretty big unit. Not a huge unit. They moved into a pretty big unit, and for the first couple of years, things were pretty sparse because they had come from small shops. Mm-hmm. But now it's a very impressive space.
Set up all together.
It's almost like a comic book museum.
It's quite beautiful.
It's really nice.
I've passed it a couple of times. As you know, during my job, I take people on tours to various places, and anytime we go anywhere near Dundrum, everyone wants to stop and stare in the window of Big Bang Comics, because it's very cool. It's a little mecca, so I'm not surprised that it's garnered that award. It is quite a cool shop. I must go there more, but it's just not close. It's not close, Michael.
You can hop on the M50, Ben.
I can't drive, Michael.
You can't drive, Ben. I'll give you a lift.
Bad egg. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special request here at the podcast today. Oh, yeah. If any of you are still listening to us, 51 episodes on. 61 episodes on. Whoops. 61 episodes on. First of all, God bless you. Second of all, God's sake, find something else to do. But third of all, if I haven't insulted you and scared you away, if you could give us an like and review on iTunes. The reviews on iTunes actually give us a big hand, because it will let iTunes know that it's content that you like, and they'll push it a bit more. You can always check us out on SoundCloud, leave us a few comments, or you can find us on Instagram, which seems to be our most popular engagement platform. We are on Facebook as well. Mm-hmm. We are on Twitter as well. And as always, if you're watching on YouTube, give us an subscribe. If you're not watching on YouTube, keep listening. You don't have to deal with...
If you're not watching on YouTube, how are you watching? Yeah, weirdo.
Actually, we'd be interested to know, would you ever use Instagram TV to consume content? So if you have any thoughts on Instagram TV and how you would consume content in that way, please let us know, because we're thinking about experimenting with Instagram TV. Anyway, that's all from us this week. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye. It was nice. My leg hurts.